this opportunity, oh God, Lord. My God, I just thank you, oh God, for your greatness, oh God, Lord. My God, I just thank you, Lord, that your anointing, oh God, is in the midst, oh God, Lord. I just thank you, God, that you are such a great God, oh Lord. I just thank you, oh God, Lord, that you even chose us, oh God, Lord, for this time, oh God, Lord, and for this message and for this journey, oh God, Lord. My God, I just pray, Lord, that you will just anoint my lips tonight, oh God, Lord, as I speak, oh God, Lord. My God, I just pray for that boldness, oh God, Lord, that you put within me, oh God, Lord. Let it arise out, oh God, Lord. My God, I just pray, Lord, that your will be done tonight, oh God, Lord. And Lord, I just pray, Lord, the words that you put in my heart, oh God, just let them come out, oh God, Lord, and just let me just resonate what you want me to say, oh God, Lord. Let it just be clear, oh God, and just let your will be done tonight, oh God. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. So, up or down? I was going to... Huh? Yeah. You never know. I'm starting on Paul's second missionary journey. And I think this is, I told him, I think this is probably one of the hardest studies I've done, just because it's not the study itself, but because it's from Brother Varner. And I got Pastor gives me the CD, and he gives me this book of notes, and he says, go teach us. Well, I like to study, and I like to get things out of it, but Brother Varner's got everything here already. So I'm looking through it, and I'm looking through scriptures, and I'm saying, oh, I got the scripture here. He hasn't put this one down. And then next line, he's got that there. I'm like, really? Come on now. And I don't want to be a parrot and just say everything that he said. And so I'm gonna try my parrot works tonight. I should have wore a colorful shirt where would come some feathers on it. But anyways, so this is his second journey up here, and it's a little harder to see than I was hoping for. And it starts down here. The lower right corner is Jerusalem. In the end of chapter 15, he was in Jerusalem, and he went up to. You can see across. He goes up across the right through Syria, all the way up through Asia Minor, up in that area. Then we're going to stop up in Philippi, which is the upper left corner. That's his first travels here. And I'll give some distances. That's a lot better. Thank you. I'll give some distances of what he's as he traveled along the way. It's amazing that the amount that they moved in such a short amount of time, I would say. And he's got his second journey starts in Acts, like I said, Acts 15, and ends in Acts 18. And the length was, they say, is 3 years. A 3 years length of time was his second journey. And the total miles traveled, which I was talking to Victoria about this last night, was 2,700 miles, approximately 1,290 by sea, and 1,410 by land. And this is his second journey. And if you look, that island, right, is that Cyprus, right, in the kind of the middle right side there. His first journey was from around Jerusalem, that area, and then through Lystra, just a small section, like right around that area. And if you go up to the left a little bit, in that land where the oranges kind of, that whole area is where his first travel was. That's a small area. And then his second travel was this. So he gained a lot of land, a lot more area that he's traveled in. And I believe it's God's divine purpose that he went into Europe, which is Europe is right on the other side of. There's that water along the mid side there, where the Black Sea is and the Aegean Sea, right? That whole line there, that's right over the river there is that's Europe on that side. And he wasn't going to travel there, I don't think, until God told him to go to that side. And we're going to see that as we go along here. And I think, well, I'll get there because I'm running ahead of myself. I told Victoria I got 3 different sources of notes here. And I tried numbering them so I could say in succession with each set of notes. So if I get a little lost, just laugh at me or something. It's all right. All right. And it's going to be starting in Acts 16. And I'll probably do some reading through chapter 16, and that's probably the easiest way to go. And this whole, as I'm studying, I'm like, what's the whole purpose of this whole teaching from Brother Varner is about Paul, about apostleship. That's his whole teaching. That's his whole main focus on that is the apostleship. And can you guys do me a favor and turn some lights on over here because I can't see. My age is getting up there, so my eyes. That's good there. Thank you. All right. In Acts chapter 16, starting in verse 1, it says, Paul also came to Derbe and to Lystra, which is right where that first box is on the white box right there. That's Lystra there. And that's where he picked up Timothy. It says a disciple was there, and in the King James it says a certain disciple was there named Timothy. And he was the son of a certain woman, a certain Jewish believer woman. And I thought it was pretty interesting, a certain. So I think he had it in his mind where he was going, what was he doing over there? Because he did, in his first journey, he did visit there, Lystra and Derbe. So I think he kind of, from what some of the things I'd said, I think he ministered to them at that time. And I think they got saved at that time. And he went back, and I think he had it in his heart to pick up Timothy beforehand, I believe. And it says a Jewish woman who was a believer, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. Now Timothy, if you look in verse 3, it says he was well spoken of by his brothers in Lystra and Iconium. And if you look at Timothy, his name means valuable or dear to God and honoring to God. And he was very, let me see it over here too. I think he was very honorable. He was a very, very honorable person. I think he was very, almost. I would say he was timid, because of some of the things that Paul wrote to him later on in Timothy about being strong, keeping his faith strong. It says Timothy's strongest traits were his sensitivity, his affection, and his loyalty. Paul commends his proven character. Paul commends his proven character and faithfulness. Yet Paul warns him to be strong and suggests that Timothy suffered from fearfulness. I don't know if I don't know if it was fearfulness. I think he was more of a timid. He could have been fearfulness, but I think he was just a really timid kind of guy. But yet I think he had a very strong character. And it says in here's what I want to read here. In 2 Timothy 1:5, it says, I am reminded, this is Paul writing to Timothy, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelled first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure dwells in you as well. And then it also says in 2 Timothy 3:15, it says, and from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus. And that word child there is newborn, and it even goes back to fetus. So I believe that his mother even spoke to him while she was still in his belly, she was speaking the word to him, and I think that kind of pronounced through his whole life, and that created the character that he is. And I got here, it's never too early to start speaking the word to your kids. Even in the womb, you start speaking the word to your kids and declaring. I think they declared his future, declared what he was to be, and that came forth. His grandmother Lois was her name meant agreeable and pleasing, and the mother, as Eunice, was victorious, good victory, and happily conquering. So that's a good people. And his father, they say his father's a Greek. They never say anything about his father. And I try to search it out around. I was trying to see if was his father around. Was his father married to his mother? What were they? And you can't find it anywhere. I don't know what the influence was that his father had in his life. He has a Greek name, and he was never circumcised. So that leans towards that his father did have some influence in that area. But it's not written anywhere. There's no definite definite answer for it. It's not important. But it would be good to know what the influence was that his father had, I guess. But that, for one thing, for sure, though, his mother and his grandmother influenced him very well. And he was, Paul did circumcise him. It says, Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him, and he took him and circumcised him because of the Jews who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. And he circumcised him so he can go into the Jewish synagogues and preach in the Jewish synagogues, because that was the order. Okay, this is... All right, I got here from Syria to Derbe and Lystra was about 270 miles. So his first journey, that was 270. And one other thing before I go on too far, he took all these articles they had from chapter 15. He had that meeting with the Jewish council, and they came up with, if everybody remembered last week's, they had that meeting with the Jewish council to figure everything out. He was bringing all these letters to the churches as he was going along that he already had established, and showing them what the laws were, or the new rulings were. And that's that there. And then in verse 6. Okay, starting in verse 6, it says, And they went through the region, through Phrygia and Galatia, and had been forbidden by the Holy Spirit to speak the word in Asia. And when they had come to Mysia, they attempted to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus did not allow them. So passing by Mysia, they went down to Troas. Now, the reason why I said before is, if you look, Bithynia is that purple uppermost part up there. That's Bithynia, up in the upper central part. So I believe they were going to go up in that area. It's all right, I don't need that, Stephen.
Oh, you got a point.
I don't want to point. You can point for me then. You'll be my pointer. Really?
Really? So the laser don't work.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. So anyway, it's the uppermost center part, the purple area up there. That was Bithynia. So I believe he was going to stay up in that area and go up. Thank you, whoever's doing that up there. Nate, good job, buddy. I believe he was going to go up in that area and stay up in that region over there and probably come back down through Galatia. That's what I personally. That's just my own thought. I don't think he had any intent on going on the other side. So anyway, that's just my own thought. So don't consider it too hard. Don't stay up at night thinking about it. They prohibit him to go to preach there. All right, and I want to get this here. All right, and now I got here. Paul, when he made this, I don't know how they make up their. He made up his. I don't know how he made up his decision where he was going to go throughout this journey or what, but I'm sure they had their way they were going to go. And I got here. You got to move. You got to move by faith. Sometimes you can't just stay in one spot and expect God to work, God to move. And Brother Varner in the video, he does this whole thing where he's pretending he's a car and it's pretty funny to watch Brother Varner do it. And I won't do it justice at all, so I won't do it. And he says you gotta move. You can't just stay still and say, well, I'm waiting for the Lord to tell me where to go. Sometimes you gotta just take an action, take a step, and start moving forward. And God's gonna honor that. And what you see here is God knew where He wanted him to go, and where he was going to go to Bithynia. God's like, you can't go in that area. And it says right here that the Spirit of Jesus Christ stopped him. I don't know if he had an actual visitation, or it doesn't specify how it was, but it says the Spirit of Jesus actually stopped him from going in there. And because God's purpose, and that God's going to lead us where He wants us to go. If we have the faith to get up and move and walk, right now I think we're at a point where God wants us to move. And if all we got to do is take the steps, start taking steps and start moving. Get in your car, and he took I think I got it written right here about steering your car. God, you can't steer something that's not moving. No matter how much you rev your engine while your car's in park, you can rev your engine as much as you want, make it sound good. It could be a nice motor in it, make a lot of noise. But if you can move that steering wheel, but you're not going anywhere. It looks like you're going somewhere, but you're not going anywhere. So we got to move. We got to take ourself out of it and just go and put ourselves in drive and start doing something. Start. I don't know what, but we got to start doing something. And it's going to be a point. It's not going to be comfortable for any of us. It's not going to be comfortable for me, because I like my standing behind Victoria and playing my bass back there. That's my safety zone back there, and we all have our safety zone, no matter what it is. This here isn't my safety zone, but everybody's got their place where they like to be comfortable at, and God's taking us out of our comfort zones and moving us to Philippi, and we're not gonna like it when we get to Philippi. And just say that. I don't know what Paul thought. No, let me leave it for now. I'm just kidding. Sorry. See, I study all this at night, and I don't say anything to Amy or anything, so I got all these thoughts that ramble in my head. So now you guys get to hear all my thoughts and hear all my ramblings. So thanks for listening to my ramblings. Thank you in advance. So. Now this is no. The Holy Spirit, Jesus did not allow them. So passing by Mysia, they went down to Troas, and a vision appeared. Now they're in Troas. It says, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia was standing there, urging him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Now listen to this. And when Paul had seen the vision, immediately he sought to go on into Macedonia, concluding that God had called to preach the gospel to them there. Now, right there, that us, this is the first time it says us in Acts, and Luke wrote Acts. So they're saying, they said that this is the first time that Luke actually meets up with Paul. And I believe it's in Troas. Up there they say it's in Philippi, but I believe he met him in Troas. And from then, I forget where, they said he drops off. He stays in Berea, I think it is. But what I saw, there was immediately, as soon as they had the vision, immediately they saw it, and immediately they went to go. There was no fasting about it and thinking, well, let's take a 40-day fast and see what's God going to say. We need 15 confirmed words and make sure that they went. And because God told them go, so they go. And what it says there, and it says here, concluding that God had called them to preach there. And one other version, it says confirming for them to go preach there. And that's why I believe that they were there in the first place. I think they were staying on this side of the water, because from my thought anyway, it sounded like they were just going to stay on that side. But once they got the call to Macedonia, that's when they crossed. And if you don't know, Macedonia, like I said, is on the other side, that orangey reddish up in that upper kind of mid-left corner up there. That's Macedonia. Are you laughing at me? Oh, okay. It's all right, then you can laugh at him. All right. Okay, from Mysia to Troas is about 200 miles. And from Troas to Samothracia, which is you can't even hardly see it there, but that's that little island, there's a little line up in there. And that's that island there. That was 70 miles, so they took a boat there, obviously. They didn't want to swim 70 miles, I don't think. And then the next day they went to Philippi, which is around 10 to 12 miles across. Now, Philippi was the foremost city in Macedonia. It was built in 385 BC, and it was named from Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander the Great. This is not important, really. And it was located near the Aegean Sea and the Egnatian Way, which, can't even see it, but if you look at the way up in that orange area up there, there's a kind of like a white grayish line. That's the Egnatian Way. And that's a well-traveled way that they went through from Asia Minor over to Europe. Okay, I want to hop down to Lydia. You know who that is, right? See something? Are you falling asleep there? Just making sure you're awake. I'll try to hurry up. Be done by 8:30. Okay. Okay. Then they cross the. And then it says they sending trials to Troas. Let me see all this. And then we remained in the city some days, and on the Sabbath day we went outside the gate to the riverside, where we supposed there was a place of prayer. Now, another thing I didn't say about Philippi was there is no synagogues there, because there weren't enough Jewish people over there to have synagogues, so they didn't have synagogues. And what they did meet, the Jewish, they said it was mostly women that met, and they were all down by the rivers where they met. That's why Paul went to the river to meet with them down at. And they said they went down to the river because of the sacrifices that the Jewish people did. They needed a lot of water, so that's why they were down by the river all the time. That's why they worshiped down by the river on the Sabbath. So outside the gate, We sat down and spoke to the women who had come together. One who heard was a woman named Lydia from the city of Thyatira, a seller of purple goods, who was a worshiper of God. Now here's the important part. The Lord opened her heart to pay attention to what was said by Paul. And she was baptized, and her whole household as well. And then she urged us, saying, if you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come in my house and stay. And she prevailed upon us. So she got immediately, God opened her heart. The only one that can open your heart to the word is God. I don't know how many women were there. It doesn't specify. But with that one, Paul's purpose with Annie was to get that one woman, Lydia. And she was a seller of purple. And for some reason, every time I kept on reading about Lydia, I kept on thinking about Karen. Probably because she was a businesswoman. And I don't know, she's a seller of purple. She was very smart. Let me see what it says here. I don't see where it says it, but she was very. She knew her business. She knew how to do business, and she was well with her money, and she was well. She gave really well to the church. Once later on, when after the Church of Philippians was established and stuff, she was one who I guess that church is a really well giving. They were a really giving church, and they said that she had a lot to do with that, and she was very. What's that?
They were the ones who took care of Paul.
Most of his journey, she took care of Paul. So I can't find but she was. I can say she was smart with her money and very business and very business. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. Very business orientated and smart businesswoman, but yet had a really heart for God and really passionate about God.
A Proverbs 30.
Proverbs 30 woman. No, you're good. You can come up here with me if you want. You got the mic? It's fine by me. It's okay. No, it is texting. It's okay. It helps me out. Okay, let me see. Okay, here's the next thing here. Verse 16. And as we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners much gain by fortune telling. She followed Paul and us, crying out, "These men are servants of the Most High God, who proclaim to you the way of salvation." And she kept doing for many days. Paul, having become greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And she came out that very hour. But okay, let me stop there. It said she had a spirit of divination, and some version says she was a psychic, a fortune teller. And that word, I'm reading out of the English Read version or something like that. But in the King James, it says met. They met her, and she met Paul. And that word "met" is actually like it's not just a casual meet. It was a war almost. It's a very a military. They use it's a military term. So they were met at war. Yeah, a confrontation. It was a war kind of meeting. It wasn't an easy. She's got this spirit on him, and he's trying to. Yeah, that's what it was. And And that whole thing from divinations all came out of a Greek. I don't want to even go into all that. That's too much. Now, this thing, I heard it one time about her being a false prophet and stuff like that, but I think it was even worse than that. I think she went around like saying like the word there is I can't think of the word. I think it's cried out, but the word is a screech, like a bird's kind of screech, a really bad screeching. So she was in a very nice voice that she was using while she was mocking them was what she was doing. It's not like she was declaring. She didn't come declaring what they were doing. She was mocking them and being very agitating. Yeah, controlling spirit. Well, it was a spirit of divination, a fortune telling. But she made a lot of money for her owners in doing what she did. So her owners, once they saw that they took him out, they got rid of her, got rid of the spirit. Now, one thing that they says is when Paul cast the spirit out, it happened right away. It wasn't 4 days later or anything like that. It happened right away. The spirit came out, and that's the power that Paul had. How much of the spirit that was in Paul? He had a strong authority, a very apostolic authority in him that was able to speak through these demons. And then Brother Varner started going into talking about these people that go overseas, these missionaries that don't have that power, and they deal with these things over there. And he started talking about. Excuse me a second. He's talking about the seven sons, the 7 sons of Sceva. And they got their butts whipped by a demon because they didn't have the power that they didn't have the authority that they could speak of. And if we try to face things without having the authority and knowing who we are, that authority is in us. But we have to know that the authority is in us. We have to realize that we have that power in us. And if we don't realize that, and if we're not walking in that authority, we're going to get our butts whipped by things out there. I mean, this stuff is out there. He's talking about some of the stuff in the how people nowadays, they're always talking about they're casting out devils, and it's not even that. They said there's so much deeper stuff out there that you don't even touch. And if you're not trained in it, if you don't have the authority, that don't even try it, because you're gonna be your butt whipped. It's true. All right, I'm getting to an interesting part now. Okay, but the owners. Remember, in his whole trip, this is almost a sidebar for Paul from going from where he wanted to go to where is God sending him to Macedonia. Yeah. So this is I wonder what's going through Paul's mind through all this stuff. But anyway, first thing happened is Lydia got saved and baptized. What happened right after that? He got confronted by the spirit of divination. Right away, the enemy wants to go and attack whatever is good happening. The enemy tries to attack it right away and tear it down. But he didn't know he was messing with, I guess. Okay, and but when her owners saw that their hope of gain was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace before the rulers. Now they didn't just go and grab them. He said they pounced them, and I mean they attacked them. Like whoever you guys. Let me just throw a sidebar out there really quick, and whoever didn't know, Josh was I know that Josh kind of was a good Samaritan on the other day. He was at Home Depot with his wife, and somebody stole somebody's purse over in Walmart, and this guy started running across the highway, and Josh saw this person running, saw the cops chasing him, and Josh, being Josh, jumped out his car and just started chasing this guy, ran across Memorial Drive over by I think it was by the Starbucks, tackled the guy there and held him down until the police came and arrested the guy. And if you guys don't know, the weekend before, Josh was in Kentucky getting an award for saving a woman's life last year. She got stabbed. I think it was in the throat or something, or in the chest, a puncture of the lung. And so he did CPR until the ambulance came and saved her life. Actually, saved her life. So he was out there getting an award for that. And 2 days later, he's up here in Massachusetts doing so. And that's how. And I was talking to the kids about it. That's how it should be. I mean, that's the kind of people we need. That's the kind of people how we should be. I won't tell Victoria to do that because it's not smart. But we should. That's pay attention to what's around you and. The guy, yeah, right? The guy had 2 knives, but what Josh got the Holy Ghost in him. So yeah, he's got the authority. And God saw Josh. I believe God saw Josh's faithfulness, and that's why He kept him. You don't want to even speculate what would happen if he didn't have God with him. Anyways, that's just a sidebar. So when you see Josh on Sunday, everybody congratulate him. Tell him he is Batman. Okay, let me get back to this. They brought them to the magistrates and said, "These men are Jews." Now listen to this. "These men are Jews, and they are disturbing our city. They advocate customs that are not lawful for us as Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in attacking them, and the magistrates tore their garments off and gave the orders to beat them with rods. If Paul's a crazy guy. This guy's first part of his life, he's over there killing Christians. Now he's getting his life beat. I mean, how many times was he beat? He's getting his life torn up. Not protecting Christians, but because of his faith. And what did he do? He just cast out a demon. That's all. He's getting his beating just because he cast out a demon, basically. Doing nothing wrong. And when they had inflicted many blows upon them, they threw them into prison, ordering the jailer to keep them safely. Having received this order, he put them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. Okay, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I want to just throw it out there because all right. I'm going to say this and I'm going to run because I want to keep on this because I'm not too sure. But this is what Brother Varner wrote, and it's very good, and I have to study it out big time to understand it. But it says the inner prison pictured the most holy place. The Greek word is esoteros, which is the interior, the inner place, which is behind the veil, the Holy of Holies. It is taken from eso, inside, within, or into, and used but once more in Hebrews 6:19. Now, I'm not sure. Like I said, I just want to throw that out there and let you guys ponder it and think of it and give something to you guys to think about. He said some other things on the video about it, but I'm not too sure what I can't go any deeper because I'm not sure about it. I just wanted to throw it out there for you guys. All right. And he goes here. And about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Midnight, they just got beat with rods. you got to. Had their clothes torn off, so you know they had to be. They had their bodies had to be torn up. I'm assuming. I mean, they don't say anything about it, but I'm assuming that their flesh was probably like. You probably had gashes in your back, and I mean, because the way they did it, they weren't very nice about it. They had gashes there, or torn up. They're tortured. These guys are vicious. Romans were the worst. And these people are torn up in prison in the darkest. The inner room is the darkest place. It's dark in there. You can't no light at all in there. You can't see anything. They're shackled. Their legs are shackled. And what did they decide to do at midnight? Oh, let's start singing. Who of us would sing at midnight? Singing and praising God. In our darkest times, what's our midnight? Our darkest time, when we're in our darkest point of our life. What are we going to sing? Are we going to sing out and praise? And Paul had every right to complain because Paul did nothing wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. All this was for casting a demon out that he did nothing wrong for. And he's down there, he's got every reason to complain, every reason to complain about everything, but he's singing and praising. And what does it say right after that? And the prisoners were listening. And the prisoners were listening to them. So when you're in your darkest hour, are you complaining? People are listening to you. Yeah, you're everybody, wherever you're at, people are listening to you. You could be wherever talking to your spouse. Are you complaining to your spouse about your day at work? What are you doing? What's coming out of your mouth in your darkest time? What are you doing? Are we speaking life? Are we praising God in all of our circumstances? I mean, in the hardest point, and this isn't an easy point. This is a hard. I say here's a day at work. A day at work is nothing compared to getting your body torn up. And the prisoners were listening. And suddenly there's a great earthquake. So the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bonds were unfastened. What would happen if Ludlow got an earthquake and all the jail cells open up and the doors open up and we'd see a bunch of prisoners running around? Yeah, you'd see a bunch of prisoners running out of there because they weren't listening. Was anybody singing? At that point, let me just finish reading this. The prison was shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bonds were unfastened. When the jailer awoke and saw that the prison doors were open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, supposing that the prisoners had escaped. But Paul cried with a loud voice, "Do not harm yourself, for we are all here." Okay, let me get to this now. Okay, starting at midnight. Okay, this is what Brother Varner says. Midnight is neither day nor night. It speaks of a time or season in God between two ages. The end of one day, beginning of the next day, right? That midpoint right there. All right, it says there's a bunch of things. It says 10 things, but I don't want to go through them all. 10 things happen during the midnight watch. Dogs stop barking. And right away that one hit me because what does that have to do with anything? You want the mic? You sure? I got to tell you a story once about this too. Dogs start barking, and actually I went to bed about midnight last night. It was 11:55, and my neighbor's got this big pit bull dog. And at 11:55, I was going upstairs, and the dog started barking. So it made me think. I just finished this, so I started laughing. I was like, "Okay, the dogs are barking at midnight." But anyway, and he referenced Exodus 11 here, and he says, "So Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight I will go into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, and from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, even to the firstborn of the slave girl who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle. There shall be a great cry throughout the land of Egypt, such as there has never been, nor will there ever be again. But not a dog shall growl against any people of Israel, either man or beast, that ye shall know the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel." There's that one. And then Philippians 3:2. Look out for the dogs. Look out for this. Now I believe this is what dogs are. Look out for the evildoers. Look out for those who mutilate the flesh. And then Philippians 3:2 in the Message Bible says, "Stay clear of barking dogs, those religious busybodies. All bark and no bite. They are interested in appearances. Knife-happy circumcisers, I call them." Now, dogs are people who antagonize you. Oh, look what God has done. Look. Like the children of Israel. They had nothing bad to say about the children of Israel. Dogs are people that are always saying something bad about you, always biting at you, always gnawing at you. That's what the dogs. That's what comes to the conclusion that the dogs are always going after you for nitpicking at you or any kind of thing like that. So at midnight, the dogs can't even. The dogs start barking. And then in Psalms 119, it says, "At midnight I will praise you because of your righteous rules." So at midnight, what's you got there? At midnight, people arise and give thanks to God for the execution of His word. There's a lot of these. I want to skip right through because I want. People go out to meet the bridegroom at midnight, with references to Matthew 25:6. But at midnight there is a cry, "Here is a bridegroom, come out and meet him." That's the story with the 10 virgins. And then he also has in Mark about the ship. Wait, am I getting ahead of myself? Acts 27. This is when Paul is on the ship. It says, "For last night an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, 'Don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar.'" This is saying that he's going to get to his destination. Yeah. This is when they're in that huge storm. And I wrote this one for Brother Danny. What's more, God has granted your request and and will save your lives, all those sailing with you. So take courage, for I believe God, and let me just start. It will be just as he said, but we will be shipwrecked on an island. About midnight on the 14th night, the storm of the storm, as we were being driven to and fro in the Adriatic Sea, the sailors suspected the land was near, and they found 20 feet of water below them, and then a little later it sounded again, and it was 90 feet. So they knew they would soon be driven ashore. Fearing that they would hit the rocks, they threw out their 4 anchors in stern and prayed for daylight. Some of the sailors planned to abandon ship, lowered emergency boats, and were going to put out anchors from the prow. But Paul said, here it is, Paul said to the soldiers and commanding officer, you will die unless everyone stays on board. So Paul had this vision. Paul knew, God spoke to Paul and said, everybody's going to live. So nobody can abandon ship because everybody had to stay on the ship. So that's why, so they dropped these boats, and the commander cut the ropes off so they couldn't escape. And then, this is for Brother Danny right here. Let me get this. All right, and he goes, you haven't touched food for 2 weeks, he said. Please eat something now for your own good, for not a hair in your head shall perish. So what do you do in the worst part at midnight? You eat food, right? At the darkest time, right? You find the light that you get is the light from the refrigerator. All right, I want to finish this up right here. Okay, it says that over here in Acts 20. The whole scenario, the shaking the foundation of the prison, every door is open, every prisoner is released, is a vivid picture of the year of Jubilee, the release of the groaning of creation and the manifestation, unveiling of the sons of God on that day. All men were proclaimed free, all prison doors are open, all the slaves were released, and all returned to his or her, this is talking about the year of Jubilee, original possession or inheritance. This points to the man being delivered from the curse, return to the glory and dominion of Eden. And after they were after they were released, and the guards came, Paul said, we are also here. The first thing that the what's that? Come on, say it.
The very first thing the jailer called for was a light.
He called for the light. And was that what did he do once he saw that they were all there? Come on. Oh, you can't read it. No, don't read it.
Huh? Oh yeah, he bowed down.
He bowed down, and what must I do to be saved? What in the world is going on here? Why didn't these people leave? What's this power that you got, that you sing your praise in the middle of the night? You're all torn up. What do you have that I need? There's something I need there. So not only was he saved, but his whole house was saved because of that one situation. Now, this brings us to a whole new different story. What happened? Who are we in a jail cell for? Who are we in that inner place for? What are we there for? Who are we going to minister to in our what secret place or what inner place are we chained down right now for somebody else's salvation? Yeah. Paul was never there for himself. Paul was never there because of him delivering that demon out. He wasn't even supposed to be there because he was a Roman. It was illegal for them to have him in jail. Yeah. Without even complaining. Never complained. What prison are we in? What are we doing? Who are we supposed to be ministering to? Who are we speaking life to get saved? What person in our lives are we in prison for so they can get saved? so we can pray earthquakes on, so they can be set free from their bondages. Those prisoners were listening. Who are listening? Who is listening to us in our lives? I think of my own life. Am I doing enough to talk to my personal family? No, I know that for sure because I don't even talk to them. I know that I'm not doing enough, and once I read that convicted me. Who am I speaking to? I speak to one person partial a day. My boss, basically. I don't speak to many people, and am I speaking life to him? No. He knows my faith and everything, but I've known him for 20-something years now, and have I given him enough? He's seen the life in me. He knows the life. He knows because he knows my family, and he says it all the time. He always commends me about the family. And he knows my faith for the church. He knows my faithfulness at the church. Yeah. And he commends me for that. But did I ever preach Jesus to him? Did I ever go forth and pray for him, telling me hey, the guy needs a lot of prayer? Am I ever going forward and saying and stepping out of my own comfort zone and back in my machine and saying, why don't I pray for you before you go in for this operation? He's been in 3 or 4 operations since I've known him. And not once have I laid hands on him and prayed for him. Not once have I ever done nothing like that. And that's my own conviction. Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'm held accountable for that. If one day God's going to come up to me and say, you had all these opportunities, all this time. I gave you this one man, this one person to speak life to, and why didn't you do it? Who's that one person in our life? I mean, this is hard for me right now. I'm saying this. It's hard. I mean, this is coming out. This is coming out right now. I never thought of this until this second. Who's the one person in your life? What? I mean, for real. It's hard for me. I can tell you. I told you why my one person is, and that's hard. Yeah. And we are accountable for everything we do. We're accountable for every person that we're supposed to talk to. I remember this one time. Now I'm letting it all out now. One time, a few months ago, I was praying to God. I was like, God, use me for whatever you want to do. Do whatever. I came to. I'm at this point in my life now. I don't even care anymore. I want God's will to be done, and there's so much that I think in my own. For me personally, I think I got a lot of running to do to catch up to where I should have been. And this is my own temperature now. I'm telling you my own. I'm releasing myself to you guys. There's a lot of running I got to do. I think in my life I should have been someplace else, and I can't change what was yesterday. But I can press forward to what I have to do. And one time I was. It's really silly. And one night we went to, I don't know if you probably remember this. We went to Big Y one night. And it was late at night. It was dark. It was probably after 9 o'clock or so. I remember being really late, after 9 at least. And we went inside and we walked outside. And there was this couple there, an older couple. The guys, probably, I want to say the guys, it was a man and a wife. And in their 60s. Well, that's older for me. And they're in late 60s. They're up there in age. You guys look young, so it's okay. So, anyway, they're an older couple, and I saw them, and they were looking at a bus schedule. And does that sound familiar to you at all? They're looking at a bus schedule, and I don't think the buses run anymore at that hour of the night, so I'm assuming that they weren't from around here. And this is right after I was praying to God, just using what He wants to do. And I saw them looking at the bus schedule, and I think God drove me to that just to show me what they were doing. And I walked right by, and I just left, and I thought I might have mentioned something to you. And I had a hard time sleeping that whole night because I said, if these people weren't from around here and they're looking at this bus schedule, they're going to sit there. Who knows how long they're going to sit there to get a bus that would never show up. and who knows where they had to go. Did they have to go all the way down to Springfield somewhere? And me and my own selfishness, I decided just to get in my truck and go home and probably eat ice cream. I mean that's, and I know I'm not alone. But this is, I'm just pouring my heart out just to for the ice cream. But these are situations that I think all of us are in these situations every day where we can make a difference if we heed the voice, if we heed the sight, if we heed the voice that God is speaking to us. And there was another instance, I can't remember what it was, but the same thing. I decided in my mind, I saw what was going on. I decided in my mind just to keep on walking. And after it convicted me. And I can tell you another time, that's what it was. I never give out money to I never give out money to people in the streets. And for me personally, growing up in New York, I remember at a young age we would in New York you had to walk everywhere. So even at the schools, you would walk to the library. They had a city library, and with the classes you had to walk over to the library. And I remember one time my teacher was Miss Tyson. It was third grade, and there's a guy sitting on the side of the road, and she had mentioned something to me about never giving money to those kind of the people, because you could tell he was a drunkard, and that for some reason that always stuck in my that conversation always stuck in my mind. So I never give money to those people. And one time, I shouldn't even say those people. That sounds so horrible. But and one time we were in Chicago, me and Amy, and you don't even know about this either. We were in Chicago, and I'm pouring out my heart. I don't know why I'm doing this. We were in Chicago, and we were shopping, whatever she was doing. I don't know, probably looking for shoes or something. I think it was looking for shoes you're looking for. And we were shopping there, had all these stores there. And we saw this woman there. She was outside of a McDonald's, sitting there with her daughter. Her daughter had to be about 8 years old or so. The woman was probably in her 40s, but I don't know. She was young, about 40. No, that's young. 60 years old, 40 is young. So anyway, she was sitting there, and I got this thing in my spirit. Why don't you go inside and get her some food? And she wasn't begging for money or anything. She had no sign up or anything. She was just sitting there with her daughter. You could tell they were homeless. You could tell because of the way she was dressed. And I just walked by, and I took a look at her, saw her, heard the voice, and just walked. And that's the stuff that I want to change in my life. That's the things that we need to change, and we need to heed those voices. I'm not saying going out now and every person you pass giving money, because you have to have common sense, and you got to hear the Spirit. If God tells you to do something, we got to do what God says. He's telling us to walk. We got to walk, and we got to do what He says. I'm talking about this about going and doing actions, getting actions done, going by faith and doing stuff. But yet I can't go inside and buy some food for a homeless person that's on the side of the road. That's not even asking for it, just out of the kindness of my heart, or God telling me to do it, showing for my faithfulness to God. Those small things, and that's the type of things that's going to change the world. That's how God's going to use us. Is those small things. We can't go deliver Africa if we can't deliver our own country. Let's concentrate here. Let's concentrate on what our city is. So, all right, and that's my revelation of me for tonight. Okay, you know a little bit more about me now. Let's get into this right here, I guess. All right, there's three kinds of Paul's whole journey to Philippi, why the Macedonian called him, was three people got touched with that whole thing. You got the Lydia, you got the jailer, and you got the slave girl. That talks about Lydia's the upper class. She was a businesswoman, so she was upper class. Then you had the jailer who's a middle class guy, a working man, and then you got the slave girl who is a lower class woman. God takes every class. God doesn't classify. He wants them all saved. Don't matter if the multi-billionaire needs Jesus as much as the person on the street needs Jesus. And I heard this today. I listened to two different preachers today, and one was this guy who was he used to be a heroin addict, jail, in and out of jail his whole life. Terrible guy, had so much stuff going wrong for him, and he got saved. And his testimony was he got saved, and before he got saved, he had something he did. He doesn't say what he did, but he did something wrong, so he ended up in jail. He went to jail after he got saved. He had to do his time, and he says he went into the prison, and he said that was the first time he was in prison as a saved person. So he says there's a whole different atmosphere. He said he spent, I forget how many times he said he was in prison before that, but this was the first time he went in as a saved person. So he says he went in with an idea to save people, and he started praying for people, and he just this one guy in particular, he just drew to him. This other guy was a heroin addict, and this guy ended up getting saved, and his whole life has changed because of this one guy. And then this other preacher that I listened to, they were at a conference together, but these are two separate, I think they were two separate nights or something. This is on the podcast, I heard him. And the other preacher I listened to, he says, my testimony is not a testimony of being a heroin addict, being a person that was in and out of jail my whole life. He says, my testimony was I was a preacher's kid. He says, I grew up in the church. He says, my whole life was in the church. He says, but still, until I encountered God and found my Jesus for myself, he says, I started to doubt who Jesus was. He says, I started doubting everything that my father was saying. He says, everything I did, I doubted God. He says, I had to come to this point where he says, I went to church one day, and he says, I told Jesus, he says, I'm coming to church. This is the last time I'm coming to church. He says, if I don't get an encounter with you tonight, he says, I'm going out the door. He says, I'm not coming to church again. He says, I'm going to go to hell. He says, as you say, he says, I'm going to do the best I can to go to hell. He says, I'm going to be 100% going to hell. He says, if I don't get touched, he says, if I get touched, I'll be 100% Christian. He says, if I don't get touched, I'm being 100% going to hell. He says, I'm going to do everything bad that I can. He says, he started in the back. You were there, weren't you? Okay. He said he started. He came in the door. He was in the back of the sanctuary. He says somehow he doesn't know how he ended up. He ended up at the altar. He ended up at the altar, standing up at the altar. Nobody was around him. Doesn't know how he ended up there. Ended up there. He says next thing he knows, he was on the floor, and he's crying and sobbing. He says he's a wreck on the floor. All of a sudden, he says he could feel somebody pushing him on the floor, pushing him down on the floor. He says he looked, there was nobody there. Nobody was there praying for him. That's how his encounter was God. God was telling him, you staying here, this is where you belong. He says, ever since then, he says, I never doubted God once again. I had that encounter. That encounter with God changed my life forever. He says, after that, I went 100% for God. He says, it never went the other way. He says, 100% for God. And that was his deal with God, 100% for God, 100% to hell. That's the encounter that we need. We need that encounter where we go 100% for God, not looking at anything back, not doing anything else but going towards God. That's where our life needs to be at. And I pray that every day, that we have that we all have that encounter with God that'll change our lives forever, totally wreck our lives. That's what we need. We need God to wreck us. We did this in the 90s. We had all this the laughing in the spirit and falling out and stuff like that. That was good for the time, but how much did it change our lives? How much after 2 years or so of that happening, where we're at now, what happened now? How much did it affect our lives and change our lives? And that's happened. I mean, I'm not condemning any of us. I mean, that's not, hear my heart. That's not condemn. Please don't think I'm condemning anybody. But that's what we need. We need that encounter with God, that spirit of God that encounters our lives and just totally wrecks us for Him. And I guess I'm in there. I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you, everybody.